I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Everything's working
All
on
right,
the
good.
first try this morning, so I don't have to search it as many.
Okay,
I don't know
nice.
what we did differently, Bo.
Well, you're crystal clear this morning, so
It
I w-
it might be my new hat.
yeah, I like that hat. It's the metaxas of baseball hats.
I'm,
I didn't know what you would say to that.
yeah, look, you're gonna go trigger now. For those of you that don't know,
Uh,
oh my goodness,
what's
it,
happening?
I have no idea what's happening, Bo.
All right.
I don't know, but for those of you that don't know, Bo has his rotating glasses colors often matching the liturgical season. Today he was
Usually I do.
sitting there working with them, trying to decide just what was going to go best. And the the attention to aesthetic performance was just it was uncomfortable, Bo. I don't need us starting to have aesthetic standards. My upgrade, yeah, my upgrade was just getting this new hat with the crazy chick on it, and which is a Winston Salem uh, minor league baseball team.
Yeah,
I
only in
can't.
the South, man.
Are you saying that crazy chicks are only in the South?
No, I'm saying you could only name a baseball team with crazy chicks if you're south of the Mason Dixon.
Well, what about the hustling hens?
Man, the 1920s must have been fun.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, I'm sure we're gonna have to do our intro. Eric over on Substack said that those frames are giving resting Pentecost face.
No, that's an inside baseball joke because for those who don't know, those of us who follow the liturgical calendar, it was Pentecost last week, and so we were all in red, and this is a leftover from that. By the way, my alternative was also red, but they're a little smaller, but they have this blue filter, this light filter on it, and it it does an odd metallic thing that I don't like very much on the screen.
Oh, well, you know, I just want to endorse Eric's joke. And it's good to see everyone over in the chat. For those listening later, it's always fun to go join the chat. The YouTube chat tends to be the most verbose, and
Right.
it appears Lori's back in the chat. I see Evan.
I want to shout out Charlene from Waterloo, Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
and I always appreciate connecting with Canadians. And for Anne, who is in the Pacific Northwest, gives us both coffee and weather updates. I appreciate that too.
And also just like coffee's good. Also, I always think about that.
Especially for today. This topic that we're going to try and address today is a coffee cast for sure. I was telling Tripp before the show started, I think because it's outside my realm of familiarity or expertise, I'm a little intimidated by the subject. And so I'm glad that this is a coffee cast and not an ale cast.
Well, okay. Now, if you remember this, because I won't, as a co-author of a book exploring post-colonialism and religion, I have a post-colonial and AI take that I've been working on. I can try out on you at the end.
Oh, I would love that. Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, can I tell you something really cool that happened to me this past week?
No, I don't want to hear it, Bo. Go for it.
So the story starts 3 years ago. It was my first year here in this appointment, and on Memorial Day weekend, there were only like 18 or 21 people in the church service worship community. And I just thought to myself, why do we even do this on holiday weekends? Everyone's traveling. It's graduation time. Grandparents are gone, seeing their grandkids graduate, all this stuff. I was like, why do we even do this? So I threw out an idea. I said, hey, next year we should throw a party in the park and just invite all our neighbors. And so we did, and we cooked them lunch, and we gave away free clothes, and We ran out of food at 200 people. So then last year we cooked more, but then we ran out of food at like 300 or 400 people. And this year, we knew it would be bigger, but listen to what happened. Because we hosted in the city park, the radio stations around here must have an AI spider, I'm guessing, that crawls over the city calendar and saw our event in the park, and they made an AI advertisement for it. Now, it didn't use our language. It like reframed it for a more generic audience, and the radio station started advertising our party in the park. Tripp, we ran out of food at like 500 people, and I gave away 27 bikes to families and people in need. It was incredible. But when somebody took a screenshot and sent me what the radio stations were at, we didn't pay to advertise. They sent it to me. I was like, wait, is this are they advertising our event for us? And they were. Anyway, this AI thing is so wild, and it has a life of its own. Like, you don't even have to press like a button to say, yes, please start the AI. It's already running.
Oh
It
my.
is crazy, dude.
Bo, the um you telling this story, if the right evangelical megachurch learns that this is a possibility,
Yeah.
they're gonna start doing AI SEO on their community announcements to hope that it triggers AI news
Yes.
news bots to add it to public calendars.
It really is weird. So this is last
If you
Thursday.
could figure out how to do that when you're in the middle of a church launch, like a church plant
Yes.
launch,
Yes.
Bo, come on.
It'll
I'm
work
just saying.
for you. Yep.
You're like
You don't
free
get
bikes, free food, and eternal life.
Oh, I love it. Oh, but yeah. I have so many jokes running in my head as a former church planter, but I was thinking, like, if you say like food, fun, and fellowship, it's not, the AI bot won't pick that up and say to the radio station, you should advertise this.
Yeah, you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out. You gotta be tricky, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so other question for you.
Yep.
People that listen regularly know in the extended introductions, we've had updates about your bike process, the holy rollers, or what
Yeah.
what did you decide to call it?
We did go with free for all bikes.
Okay, so Bo has been, it was in lockdown that you got into rebuilding bikes, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
YouTube.
when everyone else was learning to do sourdough, I decided to watch YouTube tutorials and learn how to fix up bikes. And I started going on Facebook Marketplace and getting free bikes and people. So what was really cool is people would say, I'll leave it out by the trash can, first come, first serve. And because I'm up so early in the morning, I went and snagged free bikes, and then I would restore them and give them to people in need. So that's how this got started.
So then you've been collecting bikes,
I have.
rebuilding them,
Yes.
and then it's an opportunity to really help a kid out, especially with all those kid
awesome.
bikes you were doing.
It's awesome.
And a way to, as you've talked about, having to get to know the community, and it's very different than the spaces you've been on, kind of coastal cities and such, and connecting. So like when something like this, now that you've been there long enough, you get more people coming each year to the community that was kind of a blank space in the church year because of just calendar wise. And then that intersects along with like the volume of joy, 20 some kids have in their life that wouldn't be there if they didn't have a bike. Like,
it's awesome.
You're riding high right now.
I am honestly, my endorphins have been up all week. Like, I can feel the energy in my body. When you're in the zone, like, there have been times where I've seen you preaching where you're like a runner's high. You just get to that point where you're on cruise control. Like, you just, it takes on a life of its own, and it's like being at a concert or something.
Yeah, and then sometimes you wonder what you said
Afterwards. There have been times where I've had to go back and listen because I preach without notes, I had to listen to my sermon because I was like, I'm pretty sure I connected some dots I've never connected before. So the joke for those of us who preach without notes is that I had to go back and listen and take notes on myself. That was a good sermon.
Dude, one time, I wish I remembered the text, but I completely dyslexicized the text when I read it at the beginning of my sermon, and I was sitting there going, everything I wrote is wrong.
Oh no.
And actually what I wrote was correct. I just had read out loud the text and like had skipped a line so that it was, one of those passages in Corinthians about like putting on your clothes or taking off your clothes, or I remember it involved something where in one see, now I don't even remember what the text is about, but
no, I know what you're talking about, because there's one that talks about clothing yourself in Christ, and there's another one,
like taking off,
stripping off every
yes. Okay, so whatever it was, all of a sudden when reading it and skipping a line, I'm like, Paul thinks we should get naked, and my whole thing is about the opposite,
right?
And I'm like panicking, and so I pause for a second, and I think some parts of the early church completely unclothed when doing baptism, and I decided to trust my memory that was real and talk about it for a while so that I could figure out what my new sermon was going to be.
Yeah.
I get done. My feedback regular in the choir, Roberta Weaver, in her 90s, excellent storyteller, goes, Tripp, I don't think in California, getting naked with the Lord is a line you should use in a service. And she goes, and I thought Paul was saying it was good to put it on. And I said, that's what I thought. That's what my sermon said. And then I was reading the text, and she looks at me like with amusement and also like having solidarity with just how awkward I must be feeling right now. She goes, Tripp, I know you're dyslexic. I think you skipped a line when you were reading the passage. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. So next service, you can do the sermon you wrote and make sure that's the one that's on the internet.
She's in her 90s. And oh man, she's thinking ahead. That's awesome.
Oh man.
Yeah. The flow state is pretty fun when you're in the zone. One time I was guest preaching, and the text I had sent in was not the text that the liturgist read just before the sermon. And I had to make a really quick decision. Do I get up there and say, I want to read for you a passage of scripture and talk about it, and then try and connect it to what she just read? Or do I just chuck what I had planned on?
Oh, just ignore it.
And roll with what the liturgist just read? So I decided to riff and go with what had just been read. Man, that live moment improv, it is exhilarating. Like the terror.
Terror of potential failure makes it fun.
The cells of your body, all the synapses in your brain are firing. Like you're checking in with Holy Spirit, for promptings. It's awesome, dude. It for me, it must be what stand-up comedy is when they're doing like crowd work.
Or any theater stuff, like, because you have like,
it is a buzz.
So Cora just got done with her first musical. She was in Lion King, and in those last 2 weeks where you're a sixth grader and you're doing the play 2 or 3 times a day over and over again, and you're like, this is so boring or whatever. And I'm like, well, Cora, can I tell you why every bit of it will be worth it? And she can see, like, I've started asking basically for permission for sermonettes, at least most of the time. She's like, why? And I'm like, okay. Now, you know, your dad was a like it theater school. That was half my day from sixth grade through high school. And then I started undergrad in like double major theater and philosophy. So, uh, listen, live theater is one of the greatest highs you'll have in your entire life. There are an entire cast that has to get to know their character, all their parts, be in the right place, learn the blocking and all that. There's all the musical components for this musical and all the singing parts and all the moving things. You got people that have been working on costumes, set design, light design. It's all going there, these moving parts. And no one gets to hit pause or reset. And it's happening in front of people. People that are sitting there trusting that the giant experiment that's taking place is in each of the bits you're all doing is going to fade into the back so that we collectively get to encounter a story. And then I start telling the story of the Lion King as like Hamlet for kids. And it's about the question of identity and becoming your own person, but not being untethered from the past, but not determined by it, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and it's perfect for a middle schooler because that's exactly the kinds of questions you're starting to ask. And I'm not talking about her. And I was like, and now the way you're asking that question shows up in the way you sing this line. And you know, I'm like going hardcore, and I get done. It's probably like 5 or 6 minutes. And she's like, I guess that seems cool.
Oh, that's disappointing.
After she did it, she's like, okay, I get why. I get why you were making such a big deal about it. But I thought, man, when I was a youth minister, if I gave this speech to a kid that was complaining, like I have a small part or I'm just doing the lights, you know, I'd get done and they would just be like, no, there are no small parts. You're one organ working together, and you're all being prepared because the entire audience is the other half of the organ. When you do it well, there's one breath in and one breath out, and you're all encountering the story as if it's the first time.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
dude, when I was a youth pastor in LA, I loved summer trips, like service trips with my high schoolers. Sometimes I'd go on multiples in a summer just because I loved it so much. But I always had other people do the junior high trip. And then one year, I couldn't get any volunteers, or maybe it was my schedule didn't work. Whatever it was, I had to go on the middle school trip instead of the high school trip. What a difference. Middle schoolers are just a species all their own, man. They're sort of people, but they're not fully human yet. They're like they're sort of prototypes.
Yeah. Yeah. And parents freak out about middle school too. And I mean, I do, but like I just was a youth minister so long. I found the thing that helped like parents and my youth leaders and people working with middle schoolers the most is I have this little talk about like what are the normative brain changes through adolescence. And when you're looking at middle schoolers, and it happens at different times for males or females, because like at the age range, the guys kind of come later in middle school. Early middle school for females is where you get the big eruption. And I'm like, yeah. So like half the time you're dealing with them, what's going on in their brain is kind of like they're on heroin. Like and it actually has to happen in order for them to become an adult. And so like, and yet they didn't do anything wrong to get put in this situation.
Right.
They weren't like down on their luck, and like whatever narrative you could give to that, like have some kind of responsibility on someone you're dealing with in your life that like starts using no, they're on the drug of life. And at the end of it, they become an adult, right? Like it is as sloppy as weird as like a caterpillar going butterfly in a cocoon. You're like, I know what a caterpillar is. I know what a butterfly is, but that thing, they're doing this number, busting its little like head out, and now all of a sudden it's got its little antennae and wings, and then it comes out and it's like, I got these things.
Listen to this. When my mom passed away more than 10 years now, and when she got sick, they moved from where they lived in Pennsylvania down to New York so she could be closer to like John Hopkins and stuff. They put everything in storage. Then my dad passes away 2 years ago. And not only do I have to clean out his house to get it ready to sell, I had to go back up to the storage unit, which had been locked, sealed for 10 years, and clean that out. Then I got to go through all the Tupperware bins of pictures from the last 50 years. Tripp, I found a box of pictures from when I was in middle school, and whether I was at youth summer camp or I was in a middle school play or just different things. It was one of the coolest finds I could have possibly imagined, because we moved enough, like my freshman year of high school, we moved from suburban Chicago up to Saskatchewan, Canada. Like, we moved enough that I only had my memories of middle school. To actually see photographic evidence of what I was like in middle school was one of the funniest and coolest discoveries. But I was as awkward and as what my dad used to call me, a meathead. Like, I was sort of that doofus sometimes,
No.
like, who didn't know my own strength, but
Yeah.
also was like curious about the world, but also was a little bit mischievous. And man, it was such a good find, but it gave me great compassion for myself and who I had been in those years, and just bless my parents. I mean, I was their oldest, and they must have been like, we have 3 more of these to get through.
Oh my. So, okay. Don has a question here.
Yeah.
Asking flow state ecstatic Pentecostal experience, is it maybe what's going on?
What do you think? I'm curious.
Okay, I'm gonna say a little something just because Ilya Dilio and I are doing this class on the future of religion.
Yeah.
And it kind of connects 2 of our threads of what happens when you start doing a talk, and then and the actual answer to his question. So we're doing a class on the future of religion. Everyone should join it because Ilya is awesome. And so, like, we're rotating who does the lecture in the week. So, like, the first week is I do one on religion before belief. So, like, up to the axial age. Then she does the axial age. Then it's like I do one on all the problems of our contemporary belief-centered religion, how it's breaking apart. Then she does one on the future of religion, like
boy.
AI and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
It's gonna be super cool. When we talked, we're like, oh, we'll do these 30 to 40-minute lectures, and then we'll do Q&A stuff. So I'm all good. She sends me her lectures, and they're like 80 minutes and slides with details. And I thought these were more prompting things. So then I am like, I'm not getting out. I'll go ahead and do what I would do if I was in class. Right. So I get my slides all ready. I record this thing, not paying attention. I'm into it. And I know Ilya is such a good lecturer that I'm like, oh, I gotta give it the, gusto. Right. I get done. It's over 2 hours long.
Oh my
Lecture
gosh.
1.
No.
I hadn't paid attention. I just sat in this chair with my slides, and I was like, if I'm gonna try to go like 60 minutes, I got 30 slides, and they should move quickly. No, Bo, it did not. It did not. And I told stories, and these stories got really long.
Oh my.
So and then I'm like, we had our whole house. We had someone come to put in a water filter, and some dude that had only been a plumber for 2 weeks and in training got left alone at our house. Water starts flooding. He doesn't turn the water off. He just starts trying to get it up. Of course, you can't outdo a spigot. And our kitchen floods. Now we're gonna have to redo the whole freaking thing.
No, come on.
No. Yeah. And a great time to do that is the week before your son graduates high school. Anyway, so I have some thought.
You had nothing else going on.
Yeah, people banging. So like the occasion that I was going to get back to record without banging inside. So then at some point, David's like, dude, you need to send the first lecture. I'm like, I don't want to tell you, dude, The house has had people banging. I'm just going to record it outside. Seems kind of I mean, I didn't smoke a cigar during it, right? So I record 2-hour thing. One still has freaking banging going on in it. It's 2 hours. David's like,
You
I'm like,
send it.
I'm cutting stuff. I'm just going to do it. So then I'm so stressed yesterday, right, that I have to send it to everyone because class starts next week. The
Oh my
preview's later today at 1 if people
Okay.
want to hang out with Illy and I. Well, so I'm like, whatever. I cut out like half the slides and I'm like, I'm not even going to look at my notes. I'm just going to do it. And it turned out really oh, well, okay. I guess no one's really seen it yet. It was only like an hour.
Well, all right. So you were forced to edit. So you let the cream rise to the top and then left everything else.
I cut out a lot of the scientific detail that most people are.
Okay.
I gave summaries of things that if you asked, I could explain it, as opposed to
that's
like
smart.
showing multiple historical sites of how we understand the development of religion before belief. But okay, all that to say, here's like the coolest thing that is in the first lecture that I wanted to tell you about, connected to the charismatic experiences, flow states, all that kind of thing. Okay. So, and this is relatively new in the anthropology of religion and an evolutionary trajectory of human beings. So, mammals, we have two big problems, right? When we start scaling socially, we have bigger groups. Bigger groups end up lowering fertility rates and raising homicide rates. And so you have to figure out a way in a species to deal with fertility decline when you get in bigger groups and murder.
Oh boy.
Humans and our great ape ancestors and things, like if you're looking at the evolutionary story, our line of the tree would do kind of social grooming, right? You go to the zoo and like the apes are like playing with each other. One thing we notice, the rhythm of playing is 3 centimeters a second, is when they're doing the grooming. That's the rate at which you're touching the other person. Why? There's a long scientific story, but like the way the hair follicles move at 3 centimeters a second, trigger an endorphin movement. And it's like all of a sudden it triggers this whole chemical makeup that allows for social bonding. The tension dies, and then boom, you're like, oh, we can still have fertility. We stop killing each other. The dudes just don't all kill each other, because you're like, social grooming becomes the way in which you produce the chemicals to lower the tension where you just kill each other, right? Or you wouldn't have babies. So, and all of those prior to humans that are alive today, you can watch it, and that's why they have limit group size, and they'll split up or work together because they only have that one tool. And if you're just doing grooming, how big a group can you have and still be able to eat and do all the stuff you need to do? It's like 50, right? So when humans got above groups of 50, it's like you have this evolutionary pressure. We have to come up with creative ways of generating the chemical things that create social bonding, but without the time investment of one-on-one grooming over the group over the course of the day. So first we get to laughter. Great apes do laughter. It happens in groups of 3 or 4. Then it gets to like singing, chanting, dancing, and we come up with all these kind of evolutionary cheat codes to like strap up things that signal us to make the endorphin for communal bonding. And that's where you feel like at peace, comfortable with people, safe, these kind of things. So we over time developed all this. Then we become sedentary. Then we develop agriculture. Then, so by the time you get to like things like doctrines and beliefs emerging, and things you would identify today, would at least go, that seems religious, right? It's been this story of us figuring out how to essentially groom at a distance. and create all these bonds. And like, how do you have the synchronicity that generates this chemical responsiveness that allows for social bonding when you can't all do it together, right?
Mm.
And here's a fun example. Like, so if you take rowers, right, like a group rowing, and you track the endorphin release,
Yeah.
and if the same rower in their team rows and exerts the exact same calories with a team, calories the same, endorphins created more than doubled. By
Really?
himself, same calorie, different. Um,
Huh.
if you use naltrexone, which blocks the receptors for your body will create the endorphins, but they don't get received. So let's say you do a study with a yoga class or
Okay.
monks in the Eucharist, or we've done we meaning the species have done the naltrexone test in a multiple different group religious environments. Half get a placebo, half get it. You ask them about their experience after it. Those who take it, none of the perks of social bonding that come with a religious ritual of synchronicity, because like that chemical substrate's not there, right? And so
Hmm.
what started as 3 centimeters a second, we developed all these ways so that we could overcome the biological limit of sociality, like 50 people, to cooperate as a species, over time. And all this just before there's anything like belief that we'd argue about. And this is 190,000 years of human existence where there's religion before belief. Now, I say all that because so much of when you look at all the things we invented as a species, like spiritual technologies, right? The things that would let us trigger this endorphin process at group rate.
Yeah.
And then ask this question. Like those kinds of synchronicities happen in theater or in choral singing. The endorphins produced in a 200-person chorus are more than double what that same 200 people put in 10 groups of 20 create if they sing the exact same piece.
Huh.
Right? So part of the charismatic Pentecostal experience is within what used to be, right? They come out of Protestantism, the very belief centered, where most Protestants think beliefs generate rituals. And then, well, we do these rituals because we believe these things. But the evolutionary story is like, no, we did rituals for 190,000 years before we had any beliefs. And so like the direction runs the other way, right? Rituals generate beliefs. Then you think about the ritual and you might change the ritual after you have different beliefs, like, oh, we don't want just celibate men to serve the Eucharist, or we want everyone to get both elements, or whatever. But the experiences of the artist in flow state with a crowd, or a community in synchronicity creating, or a worship service that has decided we aren't going to alienate ourselves from the first 190,000 years of religion, but include those spiritual technologies and allow them to be present in the worship experience. Like the chemical makeup, right, in Don's question is like, yes, those experiences are deeply the same. And they're all ways in which we figured out how to remain social so that we could still be fertile and the men not kill everybody. Like, isn't that wild?
That was one of the most interesting and surprising rabbit trails we've ever gone on. When you started with the 3 centimeters per second of grooming for maximum endorphin connection, I had no idea where you were going. That was really quite a
No,
curveball.
that's why when religion before belief, the whole gimmick of the lecture when I was like trying to figure out how to short it is like, I'm
Yeah.
going to do the 3 centimeters a second 3 times. So like, what is religion before belief? 3 centimeters a second.
Huh.
Oh yeah. And you can't do it by yourself. Like there is some kind of response if you do it to yourself, right? Or you can do the tapping on the chest.
Right.
EMDR therapies kind of develop those. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to test it on yourself without walking up to a rando, right, and be like, could you gently rub my arm back and forth 3 centimeters a second? Uh,
So,
you know those things where it's like a pole and then a lot of little claws that expand when you push it down on your head?
yeah.
Yeah, that is a like, most people have messed with that
Yeah.
feeling.
That's hilarious. So, when you were talking, I had so many thoughts in my head, but the one most recent, I had to go to the dentist last week. And because life has been very crazy for the last year and a half, I haven't been taking great care of my dental hygiene. And I knew that this would be not the most a comfortable experience going to the dentist, that there was going to have to be some scraping and jackhammers involved and other sanding tools and blasters and water picks and stuff. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. But
Bo, I just think there should be, like, I don't know why this popped in my head, but, like, you know how, like, um, musicians, like, sometime in their 50s, if they're,
yeah.
like, singer-songwriters, like, write some song about getting old?
Yeah.
I feel like there's an old school country song called
Right.
"Sandblasters and Water Picks," and it's
I
a
love
country
it.
guy discussing, uh, discussing how you, like, the consequence of chewing tobacco and deciding whether he wants to do it, and it ends
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
ends like, "Are you gonna set it down?" And then it ends and he's like, "I'm not gonna set it down, I'm just gonna pick up my dentures," you know?
That's essentially what we're dealing with. So anyway, the person who was in charge of the first hour of my appointment was very touchy, like, but not in like a creepy, like a handsy way, but like a lot of reassurance, because you've got instruments in your mouth, so you're not able to communicate verbally. So it was actually a very comforting touch, but it was more touch than I'm used to when I visit the dentist. And as you were explaining this thing, I was thinking to myself, I'll bet you that's something that that person learned when they could sense that there was tension or pain or discomfort in their patient, was that like a gentle touch, right? And it calms everything down and it
Yeah.
reassures them. I'll bet you this person, it's a technique they learned.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't tell people if you knew that. I mean, think of how many people leave the hairdresser unsure as to why they volunteered all that information and felt safe to do it. And you're like, you, I know why. I know why. Uh,
That's
it,
funny.
by the time they get done washing your head, you're just like, man, the world just seems great. I don't
Mm.
know why I'm worried that everything else in my life is falling apart. I think I'll just tell you about it.
No, just open up, baby. That's really funny. All right, so back to the Pentecostal question. This is really an interesting approach we've taken. We're coming in the side door on this. Um, the Pentecostal experience as a collective I think one of the things that would be interesting to study. I mean, it is the fastest growing religion segment in the world globally. And so you could justify the relevancy of like funding a study on it. But what I would be very interested in is the like the solo ecstatic experience of whether it's retreat or meditation or you know the non-group ecstatic experience would be fascinating to me as well. And then to do this thing that you've just talked about comparing whether it's brain wave patterns or endorphin levels or dopamine or whatever it is between group ecstatic experience and more solo endeavors. I just wonder how they compare.
Yeah, so
Because I've
there's
had both. That's why I'm bringing it up. I've had
yeah, yeah,
both.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's two different there's kind of two different uh forms of ecstatic attention. right? And one is where, oh man, I don't want to explain Whitehead right now. We would never get to AI. Okay, but put it this way, like, um, if you he talks about presentational immediacy, like the things that are most immediate in that moment of the five senses, and then causal efficacy, where all the past and everything that isn't even in your front of mind consciousness that shows up. And
Okay.
we have had this tendency to think reality's just the thin part that's the presentational immediacy,
Huh.
which is like Hume, Kant, and all these various ways, like the
Oh,
epistemological move of um
your
modernity. Little Squirt, the
your
chicken,
bird is
is
moving
showing
into
up.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, but this isn't Raven, this is Squirt.
Oh. Okay.
What's up, Squirt? But she's coming down. It's okay, buddy.
Oh.
And so, um, in that, uh, in when those two modes of presentation come together, he calls it symbolic reference, and where the presentational immediacy can be what triggers or opens or connects thing, like kind of symbolically, to this depth of these other things that are there. And if you try to cram the meaning encounter and all that kind of stuff into the presentational immediacy, or limit the meaning that shows up to just what's in the presentation, then you get a much more thin world, right? So the but if you, in that context, that moment in the middle is kind of prehensions, right? And so one form of prehension is one where your held attention is overdetermined by your own relationship to your own past. So think like deep work, or when you're in the creative flow state. And we could say that's individual. I would just say, for a process person, like, it's individual in the sense that your presentational immediacy isn't collective at that moment.
Okay.
Right. But if you and I are preaching and we get in the zone and we have this like blow up of, oh, this bit in First Corinthians, I'm letting it ride. And yet also, what is part of your sensory in the moment, the faces of the people that are there, all the things that are going on in the news and their stories. So there's also all that going on. And then everything about that text, you've been wrestling with that text your whole life. And then there are all these people you've talked about it in class, friends and theologians you've talked to, and then all their conversations with the whole history of the church and the tradition and different perspectives and ideologies, and everything like that is flowing into you at that moment. So is it really just the individual Bo in a flow state of his personal individual awesomeness? No, you're in a sense orchestrating, because you've become porous to both the invitation to creative possibility of God on the horizon, and a generative creative receptivity to the whole tradition that's living in you and has been a part of you through individual books, teachers, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so like we would draw those two, like, it's a different kind of attention, right? In the sense that the attention isn't like the subject is still you, versus the rowers. That subject is the collection of the rowers. Like, it's the synchronicity of the multiplicity of bodies and that do it. Or the example I love using is like telling the story of going to U2 in the Rose Bowl with Elgin and singing his favorite song, and the Syrian refugee grandmother and her grandkids behind us are singing it with us. And then, like, the only accurate description is the whole crowd had the same inhale and exhale. And is the thing the presentational immediacy, or just what's happening? Or is it the fact that the Syrian refugee family has a deep love for Bono and the Boys because of his advocacy work? And when they're singing "The Streets Have No Name" with us, that is a different movement than when I do it. And we all have our individual ones, but all in that moment, we're all sharing it together. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the metaphysical explanation of that kind of porous depth encounter is shared, but it's the synchronicity of bodies, whether the funnel is through you, or is the you now the collective. That's the difference. That's the Tripp's Whiteheadian riff for the day.
That was awesome. By the way, this is the nerdiest start to a theology nerd throwdown that we've ever had. We're really neck deep in nerdiness right now. Hey, 3 quick reflections before we talk about AI.
Okay.
Number 1, I don't want to explain Whitehead right now is going to be my new code word for at beer camp for I'm going to get another pint. I'm just anytime I'm in a conversation with somebody and I want out, I'm going to say I don't want to explain Whitehead right now, and I'm going to turn around and leave. I'm going to go get another pint. Secondly, do you know what a pub choir is?
Um, I I have a guess. Does it
So it's
involve a choir and a pub?
no, it's a little more complex than that, but essentially yes. So um you can find these on YouTube. There's a phenomenon all over the globe, but what essentially happens is just a group of strangers shows up at whether it's an empty cathedral or an auditorium or a pub, and they learn the 4-part harmonies of a song. There's a choir director, and then they'll bring in a musician or musicians who play the song, and the group becomes a choir and performs the song that they just learned the parts for in the moment, and they record it's one of the coolest things you can watch on YouTube. I think we should do one at beer camp. Yeah, I think because we've got enough musical types who could Ann says, I'll remember that. I'll just say I don't want to talk about Whitehead right now. No, a pub choir I think would be a really good addition to beer camp. Third and final thing. So this all started with bikes, and you could tell that I was on a high. Let me tell you something that happened 24 hours ago. These darn bikes they're a tangible, what do I want to say? An element that because people are in need, they I want to say overshare, but they invite me in to their lives in a way that for my first 3 years of being here in Southern Idaho, I have had trouble finding doorways into people's lives, their daily existence. When people need a bike and they reach out, I've learned to say, tell me about the person who needs a bike. How tall are they? How familiar are they with bikes? Do they like color? Are they more of a black and silver person? How far do you think they'll be riding? Just tell me about them. And Tripp, it has become like my favorite thing. Let me tell you the one that happened yesterday. I'll change some of the details, but a woman reached out to me. I'm going to cry, just so you know. A woman reached out to me on behalf of her niece who lost her mom and had to leave the community she lived in and now lives out in this rural town near us. She's bored out of her mind. The woman who reached out to me works pretty far. She has to commute pretty far for her job. So this poor kid, she's like 14 or 15 years old, is parentless, living with her aunt in this rural community. And she's stuck and like bored out of her mind. And they asked if she could have a bike. And the back and forth that I've been able to have with them about how we're going to get her this bike and what kind of bike she needs. Dude, these stupid bikes are like my greatest pastoral opportunity. And I'm getting to meet people. Last week, I gave a bike to a homeless guy who lives in the park across the street from us. I'm getting to know him. He's a Vietnam vet with sciatica. He has appointments up on the other side of town. I gave him a bike. I actually saw him up on the other side of town with his bike. And yesterday when I was driving. So these mechanical things, these have become an opportunity for pastoral connection. I have a buzz going on. My heart is full. My brain is trying to problem solve. Tripp, these bikes come to us in the worst condition you can imagine. I mean, they are rusted to the point that you can't turn the handlebars, you can't turn the pedals. We often have to deconstruct them entirely, tear them apart down to the bones and rebuild them. Tons of WD-40. I got a bloody nose last week, I think from all the solvents that I was using. Like, this silly thing has become an opportunity for ministry, and I've been able to invite in to partner with me some people who, because of DUIs, criminal records, educational challenges, have trouble getting jobs and holding on to jobs, but they know how to tinker and how to solve problems, and they're good with their hands. And I've been able to invite them into the workshop. And so now I have a team forming to, and so like we have this one guy, and he's a little smaller than me, and his specialty is kids bikes. Well, it's become his specialty. He's so good at getting kids bikes ready to go because they don't have, gears and brakes normally, right? So there's far less moving parts, and he can turn them around so fast, but also he can ride them to see, like, are they operating well? And so his diminutive stature actually benefits him in fixing up kids' bikes. And his hands are a little smaller than mine, so he's good with like the smaller nuts and bolts. Dude, I am loving this thing.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
And also, if we're just looking at humans on like what scale they are in size, like you might have a hobbit heart, but you do not have a hobbit body.
I have an ent body.
Yeah. Which Bo? Let's see if this transition works. You want to know who's the most famous person to quote Gandalf in the past week?
Is it the pontiff?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Talk to us about what the heck happened on the Holy See last week.
Oh yeah, man, dude. The Pope. Okay, the Pope. Who chose Leo, Rerum Novarum, the last Leo, which is big. When he wrote Rerum Novarum, last Pope Leo was the encyclical that was addressing kind of the industrial age around justice, ethics, work, these kinds of things, the economy, and how it's going then. And so Leo, the new Leo, releases his AI encyclical on the same day Rerum Novarum was released. It's his first big one. You had the one that was joint, but I don't know if it was an encyclical, the joint thing he finished that Francis was working on.
Okay.
But we talked about it.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, I'm pretty sure he finished this just to troll the vice president and remind him how the social justice works if you're Catholic. But so he releases it on the same day, and it's basically like, here's what the social teachings of the church do when addressing the transitions that are going on now. And I mean, I would say two things. Like I wrote a piece, then I'm like, I read so many other pieces about it that then I was like, we'll just use this to talk about on TNT.
I appreciate that.
There are certain limits to it that I would just say are because it uses a Catholic metaphysic.
Yeah. So, I was going to ask about this.
Like when you're asking questions of the human, if you have a kind of normative, steady state ideal human, then when you get to a place where there could be a transformation of what it means to be human, in our story, there might be certain questions you just don't ask because you don't think, like you aren't understanding anthropology as a plastic thing. So, and I'm sure I will end up talking a lot about that with Ilya later, and she's going to be better at, and she's actually Catholic. So sometimes I never know when I'm reading an encyclical how much of my hesitations is just because I'm Protestant. But uh, but when it goes to the way in which he leverages the Catholic tradition and articulates it by addressing a number of the technological changes, the economic changes, and the way AI, especially as it's currently being ran transnationally by a couple techno billionaires with generously we might call ethically stunted. He does a great job at articulating a lot of the challenges in the immediate, even if I think metaphysically the long story of our relationship with technology he might not be addressing. Also, like, I'm not sure if he had done that, people even know what to do with it, considering he was actually talking about the questions a lot of people are anxious about in AI now, and giving a reference point, whether you're Catholic, Christian but not Catholic, or even just secular, to go, oh, here's someone who is a steward of a wisdom tradition that's naming a lot of the problems that we're, worried about. So he begins it by asking, are we building the Tower of Babel or rebuilding Jerusalem? And in Babel, and his telling is, he's like, this isn't like just some old story. It's a reoccurring pattern by which humanity tries to make itself something more than itself through pride, grandiose technological projects, the imposition of a single language onto every form of human difference. Babel is what happens when you decide to reach heaven by your own engineering. Recent trick of this pope and the last pope, they never say neoliberal capitalism, but they will talk about engineering, economy, and stuff like that. That's what it means. So the Pope calls our particular version of this Babel syndrome in AI the idolatry of profit that sacrifices the weak, the uniformity that neutralizes difference, and the pretense that a single digital language can translate everything, including the mystery of the person, into data and performance. That's that's Tripp's summary, with half of that being quotes of like what he was doing in in it. And I'm like, I'm here for that. Like,
I
whatever it
appreciated,
provokes.
that you sent me the summary helped so much. But this is your wheelhouse, and I'm coming in as not just a relative newbie, like an absolute outsider. So I just have some basic questions for you.
Okay.
You know that I'm a fan of a frame of thought that it goes by different names. So like Bonhoeffer calls it the world come of age. Hunt calls it what is his book?
You got 20 more seconds, so you can say Bonhoeffer.
Okay. A world transformed. A world transformed. Gordon Kaufman calls it the nuclear age. Other people call it, the radical people call it a death of God. It gets called different things, but essentially it comes down to, in the second half of the 20th century, the world changed in such significant ways that our previous paradigms and frameworks and institutions cannot answer the questions that our nuclear age, our postmodern age, is asking us post World War II. Once we had the ability to not just destroy our species, but the entire planet, the questions sound different. Okay. So, I'm a big fan of that school of thought: nuclear theology, death of God, world transformed, world come of age. So for a person like me, what do I do when the Democratic Party, the evangelical church, has nothing, no directive, no coaching, no coherent positions to provide on something like AI. And it comes from this seemingly, in many people's opinion, antiquated and outdated institution of the papacy. And the moral leadership is coming from, right, this encyclia into a vacuum that is entirely, I mean, the void of leadership, moral leadership by people like the European Union, right? In so many places that you think they would have statements and guidance on this. Is it weird for me to feel a little disoriented that the moral compass is being set by something that for many of us is from, not just the Middle Ages, but this completely pre-modern? I mean, do you think it's weird?
Well, okay. I mean, I get that it's kind of weird. At least part of why it happens, and you can tell me if you think this is why in Tripp's head why there is a clarity that comes from the Pope in this moment that you don't get from, at least, like, I know actual theologians that have talked about it, right? But most of the church ignores their theologians, and the Catholic Church, until they need them to. But you know what I mean. But the Catholic Church has a whole group of theologians that will work with a pope and then construct something like this, and it has a binding authority over the rest of the church, right? So, like, one perk is the like, because its authority structure and the way it makes decisions and speaks is so old that if the conditions of our current crisis are ones that undermine the most recent institutional and public voice mechanisms, that it has some ability the others don't. Like, so one example, both political parties have received billions of dollars from AI.
Right.
And so the idea that the nation state is going to regulate it is odd. Also connected to the Gordon Kaufman point, he was the one that kind of like named for the first time big in the field of religion that we now have ethical crises that transcend the boundaries of nation states, be it nukes, genetic engineering, AI, go through the list, right? That if we think that we can't organize cooperative action past anything at the nation state level, we're screwed, right? Like, oh, well, what if America decided we're going to have a real Green New Deal, be carbon neutral in 10 years, and to do that, we expand mining and destroy other countries, creating a refugee crisis, burgeoning democracy in India is like, great, fuel's cheaper. We're going to use even more. Like, you mean we're so connected that a nation state does not have kind of the action horizon to match the problems. The nation state has a greater tension and demand made on the democratic process because the challenges are so big, the difference of opinion so large. And then on top of all that, the nation state is now underneath when it goes to world shaping power, transnational corporations. And so, there's no better example of our biggest actual crises as a country than tech billionaires who all supported Obama being behind Trump at inauguration. And they have continued to make so much money. Trump says things like, no, I don't think about the cost of gas and how it impacts people. The economy's doing great. That he's saying out loud, what's been true for a while, that the ultimate guide to whether you're doing a good job as president is whether the half of the 1% investment portfolio continues to grow and get taxed at a significantly lower rate than workers, right? So, like, so many lines in that are just wrong. And why did Leo pick Leo? Because the guy that told everyone that was wrong about the industrial economy, that wrote Rerum Novarum on the same day he released his, is the guy that said it. Like that's
Oh,
where you
wow.
get all the development, like living wage, workers' rights, child labor laws, 40-hour work week, all these kinds of things. Rerum Novarum was like how the big moment in Catholic history, and in Protestantism, it was the social gospel. Now, is there anything about the social gospel, Bo? You're Methodist. When that movement was going on, 40% of United Methodist clergy self-identified as socialist. John Cobb was like, yeah, half my ministers were. Like, this isn't weird to me. I mean, rest in peace would be, right, or almost 100. So, um, I say that because that past moment of what fidelity looked like in a similar moment, the previous Pope Leo,
Okay.
this Pope Leo has all that authority and it's there and it doesn't go unchanged, and he seizes it and then names it in the present. If we're asking a political party to do it, they don't have you can't go back to the New Deal and go, we're going to reenact it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't go, you can't run an election where the people who have the algorithm that decides what
Right.
everyone that voters are going to see, you can't tell them they're ruining democracy to go to hell and whatever.
Mm.
We just got added this. I mean, I read the news story yesterday, so I don't know when it was actually posted, but that AI terrorism is being raised as like an actual feature on the domestic place, which includes just speaking radically against processing centers, which 80%
Right.
of the country does not like. They get
Right.
protest. It's a bipartisan thing, and that is being added to the things we now essentially have our civil rights bracketed to avoid. That's on the list now, but the Proud Boys aren't. That's the world we're living in. Okay,
Mhm.
so in some sense, I'm not surprised, and I don't think it's just unique about like the Pope. I bet the Dalai Lama would say something similar to the
Oh,
Pope.
good point.
You know
Yeah,
what I
good
mean?
point. Yeah.
Like, who are the global figures who, for positive and negative reasons, right? The Pope doesn't need anyone's money. He's in charge of the freaking Roman Catholic Church. When you talk about, okay, so all that
No, yeah.
I think plays a part of it.
This is so interesting. So I came up with a really dumb analogy, a simplistic analogy. One of the problems with having any resistance or like cautionary direction at all coming from moral leadership is that our current politics, economics, education, it's like being trapped in a game of Scrabble where the Scrabble board is owned by the person who's cheating. And how would you let your fellow players know? I mean, you can't put down tiles that say he's cheating on the game board, right? Because you would be exposed. And because they're bought by these same lobby interests, so like no one's willing to speak up. So you have to have somebody who's not in the game be the one to speak up and name the fact that this thing's rigged.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on, right? Whatever
Like,
it is.
while the game's going, they update dictionary.com to put whatever pieces they just came down in, and they're like, look,
That's
it's
that's a,
triple points.
that is hilarious. Like they're so compromised and in bed because of the economic influence and like just even the political power of like where these data centers are going into rural communities and drinking up all the water to cool down the processors, like the whole thing, it's just the level of corruption behind the scenes is like it's as troubling as the topic itself of like what AI is doing to us. And so it's like you have this sub story on top of this clearly troubling story. Oh yeah, the monopoly analogy is good. It was created by as a political message about landlords and real estate speculation. It was meant to expose the downside of capitalism, but it ended up teaching generations about greed and
Okay, Bo.
yes.
All right. You're gonna think, is this really a response to what I just said?
Okay.
But while I'm telling
Is
you
it
this,
about 3 millimeter stroking being
no, I can't keep.
optimal?
I'm not going to talk about stroking
Okay.
anymore.
Okay.
Um,
Grooming. Sorry, grooming.
Bo, um, if you can you grab the Gandalf quote from him? Just
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I'm
okay,
on it.
because here is something that blew my mind. So I'm currently, because it's my birthday's next week, and Elgin's leaving, graduating, and I find, what Tripp does when he's got a lot of emotional things going on, and as someone that is like my emotional intelligence is significantly smaller than other forms of intelligence. I find when I read Lord of the Rings, it also just is Tripp's processing stuff, right? And in my current read through, um, I've decided Gandalf helps make this point, but it's the thing I want to talk about is a little different than what the Pope says, but both are great. Okay. So Tripp's contribution to this question. And I started thinking about this because Barry Harvey in his new book, which the episode will probably come out in a month or so, brought this up, talking about Gandalf and ecclesiology. And then I'm rereading Lord of the Rings and it matches. And then the Pope says this. So this is all the threads running into Tripp's head right now. Okay. So Gandalf shows up in Gondor. Denethor is the steward of Gondor. And he starts getting in this argument, Denethor and Gandalf, about what their responsibility is. Gandalf is saying, like, look, you're the steward of Gondor. Obviously, the king hasn't returned yet. You seem to be against it. You've probably been, I don't know. Okay, we'll say it one more time. You've probably been stroking the Palantir, and it's really perverted your mind. And Denethor is giving a justification for his isolation and the limits of his responsibility by saying, my vocation is to this realm. Gandalf responds to Denethor by saying, mine is a rule of no realm, but all worthy things that are in peril, as the world now stands, those are my care, for I am also a steward. Like, when Gandalf is doing this, like, he's setting up this vision of, what Barry Harvey points out. He's describing like what the church's ultimate commitment to be. It's not to be a particular realm. It's to be all realms, wherever you are in that moment, right? And such. And part of what Gandalf's freedom comes partly because he does not own Gondor. He does not have this particular claim on his the vocation, or his location doesn't make a claim on him, right? He's an Istar there to steward, empower, and encourage the heartbeat of humanity to resist the the resist the rise of Sauron. And so, in a way, and this is something Barry said, is he's like, I want to give that line of Gandalf to the church. The church's stewardship is not over a realm, which is Denethor's mistake, but over all worthy things that are in peril. And that refusal to be on one side is essential. Now, when you think of what is justifying at the nation state level, the mutual affirmation of accelerationism around AI, you'll get, even with like Team Claude, which is, they didn't want themselves used for some super sus violations of our rights as a people through surveillance or elimination of humans and targeting and war. But underneath it is this logic going, well, if we aren't the ones that do it, China's going to do it, or so-and-so is going to do it, right? At the nation state level. Uh, um, OpenAI started as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
At that point,
That
it was
didn't
before
last long.
it was before Elon Musk's brain got broke by sitting on Twitter all day. He was genuinely worried about AI and wanted to do slow advance. And then the moment he realized that's not an option, then he wants to win, right? And so each of the big AI things are doing the same thing Denethor does. Like, look, I get there's all these big problems. Oh, it's just a 20% chance of destroying humanity. So at the nation state level, the interstate challenge, like US versus China, or at the economic level, OpenAI, Claude, Meta, X, all of them have that Denethor logic where why is it I can't be responsible? It's because I'm the steward of the shareholders of this profit-seeking company, or I'm a leader of China, America. And so one of the things the Pope does, I think, in this encyclical is go Gandalf and go, I'm the head of a body that exists in every nation state. And I want to say that we should have solidarity with all worthy things that are in peril. And I want to name the peril. And so even though in the encyclical he just talks about it being a character in Tolkien, I like reading the encyclical, rereading Lord of the Rings, had this conversation with Barry Harvey about it. What do you think?
Do you want me to can I read the quote?
Whatever way order you want.
Okay. So the actual quote here, this is Gandalf. It is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the help of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till.
Amen. You see, there he's talking about he's talking to Frodo, right? I'm pretty sure that's.
I do. I think you're right. Yeah.
Right, and then but it's the same impulse when he's talking to Denethor. But Denethor's using my responsibility is just to my kingdom to keep him from going to Rohan's aid, from collaborating with all the free peoples of Middle Earth, but in it you can see that like part of what Gandalf is doing is telling both individuals and collectives and leaders like yes, there is a responsibility for your vocation, but those are all nested in the ultimate responsibility that you have as a moral free agent in the whole web of life. Like why you can't use your more narrow commitment as a moral high ground to dismiss the ultimate commitment to world loyalty. If we're talking Whitehead's language, right? Like religion is solitariness, right? Like you and the interiority and integrity of yourself. And what is it supposed to do? Open you up for world loyalty. What does world loyalty look like, Denethor, in this moment? Does it mean you tell me that you're the steward of Gondor, ignore Rohan, get Insulor, send your kid with excellent moral character out to die, send Boromir to try to hijack the ring and corrupt his conscience, and he doesn't recognize that quest for power is ultimately problematic until he sacrifices himself to protect the hobbits? And anyway, so that I think is a model, even and as Protestants and as people in other religious traditions. Like one of our responsibilities is we don't get to have our primal identity be a justification and a legitimation on behalf of the good for our tribe. But when our economic system is structured as your ultimate allegiance is to the shareholder, let alone the workers or the people impacted by what you do, And our nation state's allegiance is to the billionaires who sit behind us at inauguration and fund our campaigns. And so both political parties get mute, despite the fact the populace, who you theoretically represent, are like, hold your horses. Or have you seen the montages of college kids and high school kids booing people when they
Yes.
bring up AI?
Yes.
Yes. So
Especially the vice president of Google. I think he was at the University of Arizona last week, and the crowd turned on him when he talked about AI. And he doubled down, and he was basically like, you need to evolve or die. Like, this
Yeah.
is here to stay. Suck it.
Yeah. Which, let's just be honest. Pretending that certain things are necessary, required, and unchangeable, and telling generations below you to get over it is the most boomer thing to do. Like, can you think of a more representative enactment of how boomers have ruined all the good things the greatest generation handed them?
Oh my
And
God.
now, like, you used to think they at least, like, boomers used to have some credit of, like, at least preserving the gains of civil rights, but then they were like, no, just wait till we get on the Supreme Court.
Crazy.
Now that I don't think this historic legacy of racism's there anymore. This is like inappropriate.
Well, we had a black president.
The next day, right after the ruling, it was just like half the Confederate states are like, yeah, and we're not racist. We just don't like where our maps are drawn that lead to African Americans being in Congress.
Have you seen who they vote for? Yeah. Hey, I have a story I want to tell you. I would love your reflection on. You ready? I got to be a part of an off-the-record conversation last week with some people from our largest employer in town. Some people
this
from
doesn't seem very off the record now that you're talking about it on the internet.
I will keep it off the record.
Okay.
Some people from our college. We have a college in town. Some people, a lawyer, an accountant, a medical professional, and a couple people from a nonprofit that I'm a part of, okay? To talk about something going on in our town. And AI came up. And I learned two very interesting things I would love to get your feedback on, Tripp. One, our largest employer in town actually pays for tokens so that their in-house AI cannot be used to train other AIs. And the lawyer does the same so that because he has to keep his legal records, right? Client privilege. The HIPAA coin you can buy if you're in the medical field to keep your patient's records private. And the accountant. So the largest employer in town, the college in town, the lawyer, the accountant, and the medical professional all have to pay their AI to set their data aside and not use it to train because of these other concerns. So it's 5 people paying for tokens to keep their information private so it doesn't make it out into the broader AI.
Yeah. Dude,
you knew about this?
No, this happens all the time. This is one of the things there's a whole section on this in the big AI book that I'm working on after the one I'm working on now. And here's my theory, Bo.
Okay.
We're making like this space for genuine freedom and autonomy something you have to purchase to have. The norm now is complete surveillance unless you purchase the ability not to be surveilled.
Oh, shit.
And that is actually the opposite of how it should be. The role should be the more power you have, the more transparency is demanded. The more power you have, if you're in charge of a company, and that, like, you are the person given the input you have on shaping the public square, conversation, and all this, your world should be more transparent. But who's the least transparent? Are the 1%. You know who doesn't have the ability, knowledge, or skills or tools to opt out? Everyone else, where everything is being tracked and then put into big data sets so that then they can leverage it against you. So, like, here's an example. I've gotten an argument with my insurance company about this. So they're switching, for efficiency reasons. They want all of the people in the healthcare plan to run their counseling through the same data center and form and on the same platform.
Yeah.
Which if you have a call, let's say with your doctor, that's all being transcribed and stuff because you want to be able to connect physical things with X, Y, and Z. Well, why would you given the kind of privacy required for ongoing counseling with an individual, you treat that data as something to be extracted in the same way, and you have to opt out of being tracked that way? Like, no counselors I know like the idea. They're all being forced into it if you want to be able to take clients that get insurance from it, and stuff. Do you want to know who does not have to do that? Those of us that are like, I'm not doing this. I'll just write you a check and I'll go off book, and I'm going to pay for my counseling so we don't have to do this. It's like underneath this, what do you think a company does if it now has atomized, right? It's not attached to an individual, but large data sets to then go, oh, what insurance rate should we give this person? Same question I asked when 23andMe went under and someone bought all the data.
They did,
yeah. Oh, we don't know exactly who it's tied to. You can figure it out. That's not that hard. But underneath it, the moment you have all this, you now have a data set to justify charging higher rates or not giving someone coverage.
Wow.
Right? We know what how this has worked with the impact of climate change. So in a climate change denying state like Florida, all the insurance companies know it's real, and now they won't give coverage to people that are in certain conditions.
Same fire in California.
Yeah. So what happens when you now have all this data that then the shareholders of these companies, because America still thinks there's nothing more free and liberty giving than financial profit off of healthcare. They now have a data set that says, actually, there's a whole group of people over here that are just not worth insuring because the cost is high. Because you see they're gig workers and it's manual labor and they're under stress and blah, 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 blah. So they're more likely to have addiction or injuries or go through the whole list. And they will be telling the truth about the actual consequences, right? But is it going to be leveraged to go, oh, you know what? Knowing this, I guess we need greater worker protections. We probably need to figure out a way to introduce collective organizing into the gig economy so that workers can have deep solidarity to preserve their life and agency in a growing multinational companies exploiting their kind of tenuousness or of their life. No, that's not what's going to happen. So again, this is one of the points the Pope made is that technology is just never neutral.
Right.
It takes on the characteristics of, this is a direct quote, technology is never neutral. It takes on the characteristics of those who devise, finance, regulate, and use it. In paragraph 104. He goes on to say, we cannot consider AI to be morally neutral. Every technical tool embodies choices and priorities through what it measures, ignores, and optimizes. When the Pope says it depends on how you use it, that is the most obvious point. If you are not the steward of multinational AI companies or a nation state that thinks the only real question is asked is if we beat another nation state to AI dominance.
Yeah.
But if you're down for making money and you're an AI company, you'll enable the nation state and then you'll win against your peers and then you'll use it for other companies to win for their shareholders. And again, I just is one of those points. I hate to be really biblical here, but Jesus said you could serve God or mammon. It's his only either or. So this is why I think the like what the Pope did is important, even with, whatever my concerns are, just as a process person to be like, I think you could update your cosmology.
So 3 quick reflections. For those who are listening and thinking, this isn't exactly theology, please go to our YouTube and look at the comment section starting at 1 hour, 20 minutes. The theological reflection happening in our comment section is awesome for the last 10 minutes. They're bringing in money changers and all sorts of tech analysis from people who know what they're talking about. It's good stuff. So if you're looking for a theological avenue of this, go to the comment section, 1 hour, 20 minutes. Number 2, Tripp, for the last 20 years, I have been telling people the saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same, has never been less true. I've been saying that for 20 years because often when I'm doing a Sunday school class or some presentation, inevitably somebody, usually older than me, will poo-poo what I'm saying and say, well, I mean, the Vietnam generation thought that and the World War II generation thought that, and right? But we just keep figuring out a way to move forward. And for 20 years, I have been saying the more things change, the more they're going to change. And I feel like this last 2 years has been, for me, like a scary. I'll give you an example. 10 years ago, I was a visiting professor of theology at a seminary. They gave us software that allowed us to run our students' papers through to see if they had plagiarized or they had really written the paper, right? 10 years later, our friend, who is a professor at Baylor University, incoming freshmen are taught how to use AI well to write their papers. And it's just it's built in to professors' grading. So in a 10-year window, it went from the software letting us know if it had been plagiarized, and now the software is employed to help students plagiarize well. Like in that 10-year window. And I'm not making a moral judgment there. I'm just saying the rate of change is astounding. Okay. And then the last thing I'll say is I am always trying to convince the people in my congregation who are older than me, if you don't pay for something, you're the product. If you don't pay for your news, right? Like if you don't subscribe to Democracy Now, you're the product. They're advertising to you, right? If you don't pay for a service, then your clicks and your data is the product.
Yeah. And okay, here's one of the things you should tell. I want to see what kind of revolt I get this semester because I go to teach my intensive in a couple weeks. Here's how I'm handling this. Yeah. And my class is titled "Faith in a Post-Religious Age," and so there are 2 big changes I'm doing. One is about 3/4 of your grade is your handwritten notebook of slow reading through the text we're doing.
Oh, Suki, I love it.
And then when it gets to writing your paper, I'm like, you can go use AI to help you out. I will be able to look at your notebook to see if you've done the work. But like if you're doing it to help your grammar or structure an argument or something like that, that's fine. But the paper's like literally you're only using the stuff we read in class in slow reading together and turning in your notebook. And part of it is like the activity of reading, writing, and reflecting is the whole point of being in graduate school. We're not there. It would be like me outsourcing, like paying someone to do my workouts and then being like, I'm fit AF. And they're like, Tripp, you've gained 30 pounds back.
Look at my stats.
It seems that you just started drinking beer every day and not doing kettlebells.
Oh
And
man.
and so like in the it when it goes to helping editing and stuff, it changes. Like I know Elgin, when he turned in papers that he wrote, not AI, but then he has 2 parents who are nerds with multiple graduate degrees, editing and giving feedback and talking to him. And then when he takes our notes and goes back and reworks it and all that kind of stuff, the final product is better in part because what he had available to him, right? And in getting that feedback and working back through it, he actually learns more, right? Because I'm like, yeah, well, I too have read Frankenstein and thought about it a lot. And these philosophers have used it this way. And then Mary Shelley is raising this question of technology and blah, 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 blah. And then like by the time he turns in a paper, it's actually now if he didn't have us as parents and using AI forced him to wrestle with it more or to think about how to communicate it, or like that helps him. But the that it does no good, right? If I wrote the paper for him, or if AI does, and AI papers are like B's, but if in class you sound like a C, then it's bad. And here's my other thing about these checks. I've asked it to check books I wrote before AI existed that told me I used AI.
Really?
Yes. So in part of it is like if you like M dashes, which I just say, if you read lots of German, you use them a lot because they have all the verbs at the end that then by their endings signal like what they're related to. So if that's what you're reading a lot or trying to concept, you have certain things that like this works way better than a whole series of commas because you're now bracketing the whole middle thought of the sentence. I guess that's why, and it didn't say like, oh no, AI wrote this by stealing from Tripp. Anyway, and here's the other thing I'm worried about on the creation side. Pete, if you read something, like you'll never know at this point, right? And eventually people are going to be quoting things AI wrote, and then because AI gave it to, but so the other day, I released an audio essay thing, and I got this long email. I don't want to read what your AI wrote. And I was like, I was like, I don't either. Like, why? If you see something, there's now this whole thing of if someone looks like, I don't know, they started reading philosophy in middle school, did multiple degrees, a postdoc across multiple disciplines, and then their entire job is talking to scholars after reading their books so that people can listen and get stuff out of it. And so you just kind of have like a working familiarity with the questions you're interested in across multiple disciplines. And you were a youth minister and clergy for 15 years and are used to trying to translate this to an audience. And then you decide, this is going to work, so I'm going to start doing it. Like to go like as opposed to go, wow, that craft developed and you're getting better at it. And I appreciate it. Your next thought is like, no, you had AI write this. I'm just like, it's not, I understand the feeling, but what they're doing is saying like, I have no it is like dismissing that I put 3/4 of my life into being able to do stuff. And then I sit there and go, did you even do you listen to anything I do? There's zero preparation for what's happening right now. And I proceeded to tell you the evolution of religion, how Whitehead works. So the idea that if I sat there and edited a version of what our conversation was into a 20-minute thing, that it was AI that did it. I'm like when you do that mode, I'm like, what is your problem? Like you're now harassing people who actually worked hard at something to develop a craft. And that doesn't mean I'm sure there are people that it will help them find something they can share. And I don't care. I just want to know. And I don't judge you if you're like, yeah, I had AI help with this. Like if you matter to me, I'll still read it. And if it means my reading's less painful, great. Now, if you didn't even at least edit what it gave you, like, I don't want to waste my time, but you see, like, the moment the tool's there, we would like to attribute to it
Oh.
the very things that for most of human history are why a scholar would even matter, right? Like, for example, you when you and Randy wrote a book that involved both your own experiences of evangelicalism, yours coming out of white church planter missionary space, his as a Native American in this Christian Native American intersection and working at indigenous wisdom and connecting to the biblical space. And you have all that experience. And then you go, why is our tribe freaking out about critical theory and post-colonialism? Like, the church was like the inventor of religious colonialism, and it's a problem. Why do you, and so then you get to know that whole sphere, and then you create this book, and it's written so that if you're in the evangelical tribe, you know your own people are helping you negotiate and wrestle with it. And then it's there. Like y'all together did something very few people could do as a team. And when you did it, no one had the option of being like, I was just some Native American and failed church planter with issues using some AI and Foucault, right? But you're like, no. Like it is the fruit of friendship, scholarship, different elements, and it comes out. And it is. You can argue with it, you can dismiss it, like. And we used to have to argue and dismiss things by going, well, actually, I think the evidence points towards this, or what if this is true, or blah blah blah. Now that's AI. I'm like, anyway. Sorry for
it really rubbed you the wrong.
It drives me nuts. I'm like, and yeah, okay. If it's show notes, I don't care. If it's like figuring out how to make slides and crap, I don't care. But I'm sitting there going like, no, this is like the thing. I don't want to listen to. Anyway, sorry. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop venting here, Bo.
Evan is asking Lori why she sent that email to you.
So I got it. The funniest part was I got these emails, people complaining when when I just had the slides up, because I messed up reading my essay so many times, or the chickens jumped on me and crap, that I'm like, oh, the video looks wonky, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, you have an AI voice of yourself reading your thing, and look, you mispronounce this word. I'm like, yeah. You want to know why I mispronounce it? Because I mispronounce it. I'm a redneck. I pronunciate things weird. And so anyway.
Oh my. All right. As we head towards the finish line, I want to tell you a story, and then I want to hear
those other 9 quotes from Pope Francis today.
Excuse me. But I want to hear your theory on colonialism, the new colonialism, okay? So I'm going to tell you a story, and then you tell me your theory on colonialism. You ready? Okay. So here's a cool story. A grandma in my church just told me this, and it's my new favorite story. Ready? So her granddaughter is graduating college from a large state university and applied to medical schools all over the country and got rejected by all of them because they're using AI for enrollment now to screen out, to do the first round of screening for applicants. And she was screened out for every medical school she applied to because of something the AI just didn't pick her, whatever. I don't know how it works. So this industrious young woman decided to focus on the school she most wanted to get into. And she called and made an appointment with the enrollment admissions department, physically went there, met them. They liked her and took up her application, even though it had initially been dismissed by AI, and physically brought it to however their process is. And she ended up getting into her first choice medical school because she went around AI's back to actually engage in human relationship and connection. And so this grandma was telling me this story, and it's sort of my new favorite story, which is like, if you don't like how pervasive and just ubiquitous AI has become in whatever realm it is that we're talking about, like, this young woman is my new inspiration. Like, go around the AI filter and connect with actual humans. I like that story.
Yeah. Yeah, and see the underside of why that happens makes perfect sense if success is efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? If a series of applications, if 80% of the time the AI filtering is successful, and then now it just created threefold the new hours of labor you've just eliminated of going through it for the company, the organization, the school, the admissions office, and all that kind of stuff. There's no reason they aren't going to do it. And the other side of this is applicants can do the same thing. Oh, Eric actually just mentioned in the chat, like, it makes applying for jobs so much easier that then it just floods the application process. And so it kind of goes both ways, right? Like, so but the economic incentive of using it for the admissions process, especially in a world where the number of spots for a job or an opportunity, a thing, are significantly lower than the number of people seeking them, which is going, kind of wild. Then that's what's going to happen. So it's it's one of those things you just have to choose. It's one of those places similar to like healthcare. Like, you either make it something that's subject to the laws of the market, and then you expect it to do what it's going to do. It's always going to accelerate. Choosing not to use the efficiency of technological acceleration puts you at a disadvantage against your competitors. That's just kind of true, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, it is nuts, but it's also how it is. And I think it would require, right, not it would require changing the incentive structure. And I think that is the biggest challenge with AI that the Pope's raising, not like the big picture of the potential futures if things are structured different. Like, he's just pointing out, like, look what happens when when all of these human organizations and institutions running on a certain set of incentive structures come here.
I have to tell you a second story. I wasn't planning to tell this, but I think you'll really like this story. It's not specifically about AI, but it's about technology. I have a friend who's a fellow minister. He went to a Methodist school in the Southeast that you and I both know, and produces people who are filled with deep conviction. Okay. Everybody I know who graduates from the Duke Divinity School is like legit committed. They're like a true believer, right? Unlike us Claremont folks who are like maybe a little jaded and cynical, and Duke grads, right? Everyone I know is like a true believer. Okay. So this guy has no technology in his worship services. None. No PowerPoint, no live stream, no technology. Because he believes that when the assembly comes together as the church, Christ is present, and they take communion every week, and you have to be present to take it. because you're present to the body. Okay. So this is a person with deep theological commitments. Here's the problem. His life situation has changed. And so he asked for a transfer from where he is to a bigger city because his family has some needs. The problem is with our system is that in order for him to be transferred, part of the job application is they have to watch a video of you officiating a sacramental service. Okay. So like a communion service or something. But he has no video and is actually under the conviction that it should not be filmed because if you weren't there to receive the sacrament, you weren't part of it. And it should. So he was running into a problem in that they wanted to watch a video of him attending, facilitating a communion service, but he's under the impression they shouldn't be filmed. And they were at loggerheads about how they were going to proceed because he doesn't want a video camera there because it's impersonal. He believes in the embodied presence of the church. How great is that story? I love this guy. He's a person of conviction, and I respect it.
Yeah. Okay, Bo.
Okay, you had a theory on colonialism.
Yeah. So so the book I was working on, it was
that's now on hold.
It was a AI book, and so I had to write like the paragraph version of the thesis for the book proposal. So in order to be more efficient with time, I'm just going to read that to you. But just so everyone knows that I'm reading myself. Because you want to know what you don't do? Have AI write a book proposal.
Yeah.
Because then you have this problem of it does not sound like you. Anyway, okay. So and this book's evolved, right? So because I've taught an AI and religion class a couple times, did the whole series on it, and on a couple of years ago with Kester, and then it keeps showing back up. We obviously did the AI thing at camp last year. Yesterday I interviewed Robert Wright for his new book, The God Test, which comes out in June on AI, and it's a spectacular book. The interview is a blast, but I love Robert Wright. Anyway, but the book is currently titled The Platform is the Plantation. Okay.
And this is you reading this.
I'm just reading the paragraph summary of the book, where I explain the thesis and the proposal.
And we'll know it's really you reading it if you say especially.
Yes. So, for 500 years, an extractive economic order has built the modern world by appropriating, in a rather specific sequence, land, labor, right? Like land, early colonialism, then labor, industrial colonialism, and now with AI algorithms, interiority itself. And at each stage, it has required the same apparatus: captive bodies, surveillance regimes, absentee ownerships, racial ideology, and religious sanction. Those 5 elements. And in part 2 of the book, I tell the history of plantation development in America, and then how it got in British colonialism. And it's fascinating because there's tons of books on it, and so you're hearing people explain how to do it, and it's the first 3 parts: captive bodies, surveillance regime, absentee ownership. That is like what they tell you. And then what's it legitimated by? A racial ideology and religious sanction, right? So what happened in early modernity, industrial modernity, and AI modernity there. The platform is not a new technology emerging into a neutral economic environment. Pope said the same thing. It's the latest iteration of that order, doing the same work for the same 2 ends: economic profit and coercive control. Resistance must be simultaneously structural and contemplative, because the territory now being annexed is the very ground on which structural change becomes thinkable, like our interiority, in Jesus' language, the inner room. And throughout the book, I point out that every major wisdom tradition is called the cultivated interior, or the inner room if you're Jesus, or the empty center, or the tree that serves no purpose in the Tao, or the soul, like the site from which transformation of the larger moral order and web of relations happens. So the plantation, the platform becoming the plantation, undermines the movement of liberation by occupying the very space of the self. And so, like, when you start to think of, like, how does liberation theology change, or post-colonial criticism change and such? It's not like you have all of these tools, both kind of philosophically, theologically, and critical theory and stuff, of thinking about colonialism. But what we haven't recognized is that we treated a technology as neutral. The algorithm has harnessed our interiority through its use. The people leveraging and surveilling us and orienting us are doing it for profit, surveillance, and control. And then they're monetizing it and controlling the ways in which we can respond as individuals, at collectives, at the governmental level, right? And so we think, if we keep thinking the platform is value neutral, or we treat it with the possibilities it had in the early day before algorithms got introduced in it, then you're sitting on a plantation hoping it will get different, when all of the energy you're putting in the platform is making it sustained, is increasing the attention it can monetize, and increasing your addiction on the fascination of those immediate flashes of entertainment that dull us to the encounter with the sacred that happens in our solitariness, right? And so underneath this, it's going like, yeah, Whitehead's whole point is like, religion is what happens in your solitariness, and it's there with the integrity of your own interiority that world loyalty emerges. And we first did it with what? We first did it with land, and then we did it with labor. But now the interiority is getting the colonial treatment.
Oh, wow.
And if we want to think of all the beautiful possibilities, like that Ilya emphasizes, and such, of what can happen when we have greater relationality and cooperation, and all the kinds of things that this could make possible, it can't happen when the platform that we're doing it on is a plantation. And there you go. So
wow.
Do you see how that kind of like,
yes.
How does the algorithmic mediation of our relationships demand a new form of liberation theology?
Wow. I can't find it right now. I'll find it. You sent me an awesome PDF sort of framework about this, and you had a section in there on the new colonialism of technology. I am looking forward to whether you put this out as a Substack post or it's a chapter in your book, but I really do like the angle that you take on this. So I'm glad that you have introduced it.
Yeah, it's do you, I mean, you and I were both very much online in that area when early internet and early social media, before algorithms got introduced.
Yeah.
It was such a different experience, right?
It's true.
Like, you actually saw updates from your family and friends.
You saw everything.
Yeah, what was raised to your attention were like the things your actual friends engaged with.
Yeah.
Which involves what? Like your deliberate conscious action, not you slowed down when a hot chick or a new cigar thing comes across your feed, or a Tolkien meme, or whatever it is. And it's like, Tripp is ready to buy a new cigar right now. I know he probably has 600 in his room, but he did slow down. And EP Carrillo's new anniversary pledge is sitting
you
there.
paused.
What?
You paused. You slowed down. When
I
you're
slowed down
scrolling,
on the scroll.
you're
Yeah.
scrolling.
And it's like, whoa.
I saw that.
I think if we show him this tonight, especially if his favorite team that we know is losing the basketball game, he would love an endorphin pick-me-up called
Yes.
ordering cigars.
Oh no.
So the that was not there, right? And all the way down to like you want a multiplicity of things to hit you, so we shorten even the number of characters or the length of the video and all this kind of stuff, because the infinite scroll is what dulls your attention and keeps you on the platform, right? And so I mean, this is one of the reasons I like genuinely like Substack better than the others, because it doesn't have advertising, so it uses algorithms to show you like the people you read, and we know what you read and slow down on, right? On the app. Other people like you slowed down on this figure who wrote on this topic that we know you like, and you don't know about him yet, right? It does in a similar way what all the linking used to do in early blog days, where 5 people are linking to this, and then you're reading this. Oh, it connects here and does this. It functions way more similar because it doesn't want to hold your attention because it makes money by selling ads. It holds your attention and shows you other people that you might like so much you give them $9 a month, and then they get their 10%, right? Like I'm sure they'll ruin it.
Yeah.
At some point, but right now, its financial incentive is to help you find content and voices that it thinks you would like. And
I often tell you stories about something I wish I hadn't clicked on, and then it changed my algorithm. Here's a positive story. I Googled the Berrigan brothers last week. I had something going on in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, what was the thing with the Berrigan brothers? And so I Googled them. It has introduced, so now AI, or the algorithm, sorry, thinks that I want to know about Catholic liberation and social justice movements. And it has changed my algorithm. So this is like a new fun thing I'm doing, which is like, what can I Google that will make the algorithm think I'm interested in like higher causes and social justice movements?
you're like, does Jesus hate all of America?
Can you blow something up for a righteous cause? Is that okay? Is violence in the name of righteousness all right?
Yeah, you gotta have to use a VPN if you're searching that. You're gonna get put on a list.
Real quick. Hey, should I do a quick benediction, and then we can wrap up this chapter of our conversation?
Yeah, Pope Leo, when you're listening to this, because I'm sure you're a Theology Nerd Throwdown regular, I'd love for you to join the chat next time, but I'm sorry we didn't get to the other 9 highlights of your encyclical, but some things are just more important.
Yeah.
Now at 1 o'clock when I do the thing with Ilya, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna be like, Ilya, I know we're supposed to talk about our class coming up, but it's good. So now let me ask you about the Pope. All right, Bo.
You ready for a benediction?
I hope so.
May you find your flow state and the strength to resist your techno overlords, and I'll see you in Valhalla, brother.
Amen.